Welcome to today's Creative Oasis Masterclass, Use Your Mind as a Magic Wand. You're a creative human, meaning you use your mind and your imagination and your innovation to create new things in the world. And you either do this as a creative entrepreneur or a social activist or for your own personal fun and fulfillment, or as is the case for myself and many of my clients, it's some combination of those three. But here's the rub. The same amazing brain of yours that helps you think up your creations is also the brain that keeps you sometimes from creating the level of success you desire, that can keep you stuck or hold you back. It's actually your thoughts more than anything else that keep you from creating the income you desire, letting the world know about your program, signing new clients, or getting into your studio on a regular basis, finally writing your memoir, or planning a community garden, starting a podcast, taking your baking biz to the next level, whatever it is that you're wanting to do. So today you're going to learn a couple of empowering ways to use your mind, truly the most powerful creative tool you have as a magic wand to create the life that you crave. You can use your mind to help you boost your income, work with clients you love, get the word out about your program, enjoy more studio time, in more writing time, plan your garden, start your podcast, increase your online bakery sales, whatever your heart desires. I have been a master certified creativity coach since 2009, and I've helped hundreds and hundreds of multi-passionate creatives to move past blocks of procrastination, perfectionism, inner critic fears, all kinds of fears, overwhelm, so that they can create lives and complete projects and create businesses that they love. And over the past 3 years, I've taken everything I've learned and practiced since first starting Creative Oasis coaching back in 2009 to the next level by working with and learning from and being coached myself by a set of coaches who have taught me how to work with my thoughts and shift my mindset to create some mind-blowing results. And by learning how to make my thoughts work for me and not against me, I've really created some things in my life that I once they weren't even the realm of possibility for me. So in a nutshell, after a messy divorce a few years ago that had a lot of legal and financial fallout, I've been able to go on to create a life filled with soul nurturing creative experiences, connections from around the world. I've been able to grow my part-time creative coaching business into a full-time 6-figure career. And in doing so, I did not change what I offered. I did not change a lot of the actions I was already taking. As a creativity coach, I've always been helping multi-passionate creatives to bring their creative ideas and dreams out of their heads and into the world. I've always been a big dreamer and a list maker and an action taker. That's not what changed. What changed, the number one thing that has changed, is my ability to use my mind to create the results that I desire, using a combination of coaching methods I've learned and practiced and developed myself in combination with the coaching methods that I've been using for 15 years. So during this masterclass, you're going to learn why what you're currently doing isn't creating the results you desire at the level that you desire. A simple 3-step process that can help you to shift your thoughts to a mindset that will serve you in minutes. A sneak peek at one of the components of the Magic Action Plan that I use with myself and my clients weekly. What's possible for you when you learn and practice these methods consistently, and then how I can help you learn what you apply today to show up consistently and use these tools and to create the results that you desire for your creative vision. So I also want to offer that if you are currently working with me, because I know there's a few of you are on the call or that had signed up for the call who are currently working with me one-on-one, although you're going to already be familiar with some of these methods and some of what I teach today, I invite you to open your mind to receive all of the teachings during today's class through the lens of how can it be most beneficial to me today, in this moment, wherever you are in your ever-transforming creative journey. Really give yourself permission to make full use of this opportunity to up-level and strengthen your knowledge and commitment to using these methods to help you turn your creative dreams into reality. So I'm going to ask you again to stay muted and off camera so we can get the best sound quality and visual quality, both for the people that are here live and for those of you watching the recording. Again, if you have a technical issue or personal problem during the class, my Katie is here assisting me. You can reach out to her via the chat and she will do her best to help you. I invite you to make sure you have, something to drink, a journal or a piece of paper. I love to use colorful felt tip or gel pens to take notes. You'll want to take notes for these methods that I'm going to walk you through. And I promise to leave plenty of time for Q&A once I wrap up the teaching portion of the class. So if I don't see and answer your questions during the class, be sure you save them to the end and we will get to them then. Again, the replay is going to be available to you within 24 hours. If you want to go back and review, I've honestly been on workshops recently. I'm so used to watching things when I want to online or on TV that I've been attending a live workshop and the person who's teaching is kind of going quickly and I'm like, want to pause them and I can't because it's live. So even though that's true right now, you will be able to go back and watch the replay if you like. Again, I'm also going to be sharing at the end how we can continue to work together to take everything you learned today further. And lastly, what I want really to invite you to do right now is give yourself the gift of being truly present and focused and in the moment so you can get the most out of what I'm teaching you and you can begin to apply it to your creative endeavors right away. I also want to take a minute to acknowledge, and I'm gonna try to do this. I may not be able to do it without crying. I'm gonna acknowledge that there is so much happening right now, and it's hard. I'm not gonna say that it's not on all of our minds, right? The news about what happened in Texas, along with everything else that's been happening lately, it's hard and it's a lot. And what I want to offer you right now is just to be gentle and compassionate with your nervous system. All of our nervous systems are a little bit on high alert right now because things just keep coming. So I want to acknowledge that, and we'll talk about it a little bit more later, but just be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself during this class and throughout the rest of the day, and really ask yourself, what do I need to take care of my nervous system and my heart right now? So you gave yourself permission to sign up for this masterclass. You gave yourself permission to show up for this masterclass or to watch the replay if you're not here with me live right now. And if you find it challenging to give yourself permission to focus and follow through and show up for your creative endeavors consistently, you're not alone. Giving yourself permission is actually an incredible gift and an empowering step that a lot of people just gloss over. They just assume because they want to do something, they're going to show up to do it. I want to start today with a short guided imagery to help you give yourself permission to really embrace this idea of being here in the moment, setting your intentions for the short time we have together today. So I invite you to close your eyes and get as comfortable as you can wherever you're seated. Hopefully you're someplace that you can be comfortable and have a little privacy. And just allow yourself to feel supported by the chair wherever you're seated, and take a nice deep inhalation. And on your exhalation, release any tension that you may or may not even have known that you were holding in your neck or your shoulders, your jaw. And take another nice deep breath in. And on the exhalation, allow yourself to feel 5% more relaxed and in the moment and present, and open to receiving these words and allowing them to wash over you and help you to come into this moment. I hereby give myself permission to be fully present and in the moment during this class. I hereby give myself permission to not attempt to multitask, to close any other apps and windows on my computer, or put away my phone, close the door if possible. Let others know that I need privacy so I can have this time and space I need. I hereby give myself permission to remain open to receiving new ideas and envisioning how they will serve me and enhance my creative life. I hereby give myself permission to be gentle and not judge myself or my journey or compare myself to anyone else's journey during this masterclass. I hereby give myself permission to be open to the possibility that I am capable of creating and experiencing autonomy and success and joy in my life via my creativity. And I hereby give myself permission to believe that what I learned today will positively affect the trajectory of my creative journey. And PS, if I feel any resistance around any of these statements, it's totally normal. And I just practice being gentle and giving myself 5% more permission at a time. So I invite you to take one more deep breath into that, receiving all of that permission. And on the exhalation, opening your eyes and coming into the moment. Imagine if we gave ourselves permission intentionally every day, that took less than a minute to prioritize your creative vision. This is actually one of the things that I help my clients do, and it's so important and valuable. So you're a creative human. You're here. That's not up for debate. The people who tend to be attracted to Creative Oasis coaching are creative humans who either want to start or grow a business or strengthen creative habits or complete and enjoy personal and professional creative projects on a consistent basis rather than once in a blue moon. So I want you to listen to see which of these groups you feel like you can relate to. About 50% of the people who work with me are in a professional realm. And even within the professional creative realm, they might fall into two categories. Creative professionals, for example, photographers, teachers, facilitators, creativity coaches, artists of all kinds, a muralist, a mosaicist, a jewelry designer. I have somebody who actually has this really cool business where she comes into your house and helps you redesign the spaces in your home using what you already have. Improv facilitators, to name a few. And then there are people who want help with using creative methods to grow their business or their project, but maybe that is not stereotypically creative. Although I think really we can use creativity in all areas, but maybe a yoga instructor, a diversity and inclusion facilitator, an ordained minister, a sound healer, an event planner, other types of coaches. These clients want help using their creativity in a variety of ways to grow their business or get their message into the world. For example, creating compelling content, or making fun reels for Instagram, or starting a podcast, or writing a book, or creating an event. And then the other group of my clients really hire me to help them make their personal creative dreams come true. These dreams often aren't tied to creating income. They're either for nonprofit or their personal passion projects. So for example, organizing a creative space in their home and finally giving themselves permission to spend time for the joy of it, creativity, such as crafting, scrapbooking, collaging, writing poetry, learning an instrument, or picking an instrument back up that they haven't played in ages. And I also help a lot of people who are experiencing or about to experience some kind of big change in their life. Children are going off to school, or they're empty nesters now, or they're getting ready to retire, or after a divorce or something like that. So some examples of people that I'm working with right now in retirement, wanting to be in a band, like wanting to know that they have things, writing a memoir, traveling, doing things that light them up when they're in their retirement so they can enjoy it, so they don't feel like they want to go back to work because they don't know what to do anymore. So the thing to remember is that all of these people with such a wide variety of creative dreams and endeavors, what they share are the blocks, right? The blocks, what keeps them from showing up in the way they want to. Procrastination and perfectionism, those inner critic voices, overwhelm. And many times they have been, and maybe you have been, putting creative endeavors on the back burner, and sometimes for weeks or months or years or even decades. So being able to finally say yes to themselves and put the creative dreams front and center and take conscious, intentional action to move forward with them on a consistent basis is it's priceless, basically. So I'd love to know, if you want to pop into the chat, which of these groups are you in? Did you hear, do you see yourself in any of those situations? And here's what I see. There's 4 things that I see people trying to do when it comes to their creative dreams. And that doesn't really work, whether primarily you're using creativity in your personal or professional life or some combination. These are the things, again, I want you to listen to see, does this sound familiar to you? Or is this what you've been trying to do and it hasn't been working for you the way you'd like it to? The first one is instruction. You're looking for someone who is going to tell you exactly what to do. You hope that somebody will give you a step-by-step process and it's just going to work perfectly for you because it works perfectly for them. So in this case, like for instruction, you read all the books, you take all the workshops, you listen to podcasts, you buy online courses, you might even complete them or not. You attend retreats, but at the end of the day, those actions, they can be illuminating and educating and inspiring, but none of that on its own is going to help you to create lasting positive change in your creative life, because it doesn't address the real underlying issue. And that is what your own thoughts are about the creative journey that you're having. In fact, sometimes it can actually fuel your belief that you don't have the answers inside of you, which leads to a lack of self-trust, which often prevents you from making decisions about your creative journey, trusting those decisions and acting on them. So what will take you where you want to go is learning how to harness the power of and trust your own creative genius and ideas. Because when you learn and practice how to manage your mind and your thoughts and have them work for you rather than against you, then you can really take your trainings, your learned skills, your natural talents, your life experiences, and you can weave them all together to create the results that you desire. So if that sounds familiar to you, let me know. If you've been looking for the answer in instruction, you're not alone. The next thing I see people do is really distraction. And this presents itself in a couple of ways. Shiny object syndrome. This is especially prevalent if you're a multi-passionate creative or someone who has a lot of different creative interests and talents and desires and projects and passions that you want to pursue. I'm raising my hand. I'm a multi-passionate creative. Many of the people that I work with are multi-passionate creatives. And when you don't have a way to prioritize and you're interested in a lot of things and your heart is called to a lot of things, staying on track and focusing and following through with your creative dreams and desires can be a challenge, and you can wind up kind of feeling all over the place. And oftentimes you might make a little progress here and a little progress there, and you go wide but not very deep. And also the other thing that can happen, truthfully, is that you just feel overwhelmed because you have so many options and ideas, and that can lead to paralysis. So you take no action whatsoever. The other thing that happens when you come up against a challenge or failure, which let's take a moment right now to stop and say, you will. You will fail and things won't go right, and that's okay. I think we don't want to talk about failure. We don't want to remember that it's just part of the process. So nothing has gone wrong. It's just, that's called life. Not everything succeeds 100% of the time or right out of the gate. But to go back to this idea of distraction, when you do experience a setback or a failure and you have 567 other ideas waiting in the wings, it's so much easier and enticing to jump ship and go to another one, just start in a different direction, rather than to practice learning how to focus and follow through and seeing your ideas through to completion or even to the next stage. And the other thing we can end up doing is just going back to the same thing that we know how to do, because that's comfortable and we know how to do that, but then we're not branching out, we're not growing, we're not making those dreams that are in our head happen in the real world. And basically what we're doing when we're continuing to do the same thing over and over again is training our brains to have the opposite of focus and follow through. So rather than hopping from thing to thing and adding to your never-ending to-do list, what you really need is this way to work with your thoughts, to practice making and trusting your decisions, to practice prioritizing your creative vision, and creating this cycle of fulfilling completion and experiencing completion energy more often. So distraction is another one that may be familiar to you. The third one is inspiration. And you might think, inspiration sounds great. Creative people need inspiration. We want inspiration. And while that is true, if you're waiting around for inspiration to strike, or the mood to arise, or your muse to visit you and beckon you into the creative flow, or you're waiting for divine timing, for most of us, this happens, but it can be few and far between in the times that it does happen. And this can lead to large gaps in creative productivity. So you may be going gangbusters for several days or several weeks in a row on a project, but then when that, for whatever reason, stops, or the well runs dry, or you wake up and you don't feel inspired one day, you can really sideline yourself and your creative dreams. And then you're just waiting to catch that next wave of inspiration, which can be pretty capricious, if we're just waiting around. And again, that can be days, weeks, months, even years before you pick it back up again, rather than having a way to consistently step into the flow of creative momentum. You can also feel like you have to restart every time. So rather than staying in touch with your creative projects and consistently working towards them, even in the days you don't feel inspired, you're continuing to move forward, so you don't have to restart your creative flow every time you begin. So what you need is a way to put yourself in the driver's seat, to intentionally choose how you're going to show up and take inspired action on your creative dreams consistently, whether or not you're feeling particularly inspired. So that when you do get bumped off the path, which you will, illness, a bad day, an emergency project at work, you have a plan and a way to stay connected to your creative dreams and to pick the thread back up quickly and easily, to get back to it, rather than allowing these huge chunks of time to pass before you feel like starting again. And then lastly, discipline. You tell yourself you need willpower, you need self-control to bring your creative dreams to fruition. And you may be tempted to push through and will the changes you desire into existence. And like all of these things, it can work for a short amount of time, but it kind of works in spits and spurts, and it's not very pleasant, and it's certainly not sustainable. If we're hustling and grinding and working to make things work, even if we create the result we want, if we want to continue and maintain that result, we're going to have to continue hustling and grinding. It won't all of a sudden, we can't take our foot off the gas and then be like, it's going to keep going on its own now. So this might be, if it's discipline, you may be making to-do lists, crossing 2 things off the to-do list, adding 3 more, and never really feeling that sense of satisfaction and completion. And if you have these thoughts that you don't have enough willpower, or you're not disciplined enough, more than likely you're spending some amount of time beating yourself up or having a lot of negative self-talk about this lack of willpower and discipline, which is not helpful. And again, as a list maker and an action taker extraordinaire, I have spent years in that loop of scattered action, inner critic self-talk that didn't lead to the kind of focus and follow through that I wanted. And again, what changed everything for me, and now I'm able to share with my clients, is how to use my thoughts for myself rather than against myself, and how to have access to a simple, repeatable process that makes showing up for our creative dreams doable and enjoyable and meaningful, so we don't have to try to muscle or strong arm our way to the results that we want. So these, again, are the 4 things that I have tried myself and seen people trying to do, which is find the answers through instruction, distraction, inspiration, or discipline. So believe me, I am right there with you. Once upon a time, I read all the creative and self-help books. I took all the courses and workshops. I went to all the retreats, and I was hoping to find somebody else just to tell me what to do via purely instruction. And then as far as the overwhelm, I had millions of projects, it felt like, going on at any one time, from writing a fictionalized memoir to creating a TV pilot to making music. So I definitely felt overwhelmed and succumbed to that shiny object syndrome. And as far as inspiration goes, I'm going to tell the story, like when there was a time when it came to writing songs that I would need a huge chunk of time and everything else had to be done. And I had to feel inspired and probably a little moody or angsty about something. Preferably it would be raining outside so I could light a candle. I mean, I had all of these, parameters for when I would sit down to write a song. And as you can imagine, not very many songs were getting written when I was waiting for inspiration to strike and for this perfect set of circumstances. And then as far as discipline, I really, again, making lists, showing up, but taking the same actions again and again without thought that weren't creating the results that I wanted. One example I can think of is I tried to journal my way to results for years using morning pages via the Artist's Way, which for me basically resulted many times in me writing the same thing over and over again without changing the results, just thinking about how badly I wanted them and kind of beating myself up for not creating the change. And I want to say, I love Julia Cameron, and I will always be grateful to her for the Artist's Way. That was really the first step in my journey to discovering creativity coaching and becoming a creative coach. But it wasn't really until I did that and found other tools and techniques that I could move past just the journaling about it and change my mindset and make the things happen that I wanted to have happen. So I did that first by myself, working with a creativity coach, and then both one-on-one and in groups, and then earning my certification as a Kaizen Muse creativity coach, becoming a master creativity coach, and then beginning my own business, Creative Oasis Coaching, again in 2009. And then most recently, I've continued to learn. I mean, most of the people that I work with and most multi-passionate creatives are lifelong learners. And so I have continued on this path. I've continued to learn and work with new coaches and learn new methods. And over the past 3 or 4 years, that's when I've really learned about and focused on harnessing the power of my thoughts and creating results that have truly felt like a magic wand to me. And that's why I wanted to share this class with you. I'm not a unicorn. If it's possible for me, if it's possible for my colleagues and my clients, it is possible for you too. So whether your go-to tends to be instruction, distraction, inspiration, or discipline, or likely some combination, I want to offer that the number one reason you are not creating the results you want in your creative life is directly tied to your mindset. So I want to share some specific examples to illustrate what I mean. Let's go back to instruction. When you're constantly looking outside yourself for how to decide on and what to do to bring your creative dreams to life, you actually fuel the belief that you don't have the answers inside yourself. Again, this leads to a lack of self-trust, and this often prevents you from making decisions that you need to make about your creative journey. That kind of keeps you in a spiral of doing the same thing over and over again. And it can even fuel compare and despair type of thoughts. So a thought you may have, if instruction is what you're trying to do, sure, it will work for her, but not for me. Thinking about your teacher or your coach or an author or an influencer or a podcaster. When you're thinking it's going to work for somebody else, but not for you, this can lead to feelings of not good enough, unworthiness. And of course, if those are the feelings that are fueling what you do in the world, you're not going to show up in the most confident, empowered way that you could. Another thought that you may think is, I have to finish this class, or I have to take one more class, or I have to earn one more certification or degree or whatever it is before I can begin. And on the one hand, this fuels pressure, like frantic, like, oh, I have to do all of these things before I can actually do the dream that I have in my head, start focusing on that and making it happen. Or it can lead to paralysis, or it can also be kind of a subtle form of self-sabotage, because you've got this validation, this feeling that doesn't really serve you. Like, of course I can't do this thing because I still have to take this class. I still have to get this certification. And these kind of thoughts, again, just validate the fact that you're not taking the actions that you want to be taking towards your creative dreams. Within the coaching relationship, I think one of the most important benefits is having the support and guidance that helps you to return again and again to your own inner wisdom, as I call it, your inner GPS. So you can start to practice making decisions and from a safe, non-judgmental space, and naming and claiming your own decisions and building self-trust when you're using your mindset to create the results you desire. For distraction, when you're constantly second guessing yourself and changing your mind and heading in new directions, rather than making empowered decisions and committing to them and staying the course, you may have thoughts like, this isn't working quickly enough, so I need to try something else. You can see the feeling that thought fuels is impatience, which would cause you to jump ship, try something else, give up altogether. Another thought that you may have is, I have to know how to do this perfectly before I can even do it and put it into the world. So since I don't know how to already do it perfectly, I'm just not going to do it at all. Again, distracting, because you'll pop back to the thing you do know how to do. These thoughts of needing to know things perfectly, or before we can even begin, or that fear of failure, it leaves no room for the very necessary time to learn, to practice, to fail, to evaluate, and continue on. So that's why we'll often find ourselves, and I definitely was in this camp, creating the same results over and over again that I didn't want, or even getting to a certain place, a certain modicum of success. Some parts were going well, but then not being able to go any further because I wasn't willing to try something new and didn't trust myself to do that. As far as inspiration, thoughts that you may be having that are really holding you back are like, I don't feel inspired right now. Like there's nothing I can do about that. Like we're reporting the weather. It's cloudy. I'm not inspired. Clearly I can't take action on my creative dreams. Or that I don't have the willpower it takes. Again, we say thoughts like this, we share thoughts like this with other people and with ourselves. We report it as if it's the weather. I don't have the willpower it takes. So these thoughts fuel that cycle of self-judgment, and they can also really stand in or be a reason, a rationalization to bolster the I don't have what it takes argument in your head if you already have that. And here's what I want to offer. These are all just simply the way that your brain works on default. These are just the thoughts that you've been thinking the longest, oftentimes for years and years, if not decades. And of course, they're the thoughts that rise to the top on their own over and over again. So the great news is, that's our discipline person there. She's working hard. The great news is that you truly have the power to choose and change your thoughts. As the wise Louise Hay once said, when we create peace and harmony and balance in our minds, we will find it in our lives. And I want to go a step further with that and offer that whatever we create with our minds, we will find in our lives. So if we're going to find stress and worry and doubt, and that's in our minds, that's what we're going to have in our lives. And if we're going to find intentionally joy and success and meaning, it starts in our mind, and then we will find it. We will create it in our lives. So how to manage my mindset is without a doubt the number one skill I've learned, practiced, and used over the past 5 years to make major positive, not that I didn't do it before, but just with new tools, make major positive transformations in my life and helping my clients to do the same. So just like 4 examples I can think of personally. I went from not considering myself a runner at all to running a 5K every month for a year and a half. Again, leaving a really unhappy, awful, unhealthy marriage to finding and feeling worthy of healthy love, to growing a part-time job hobby into a full-time mortgage-paying career, to dreaming about situations like working remotely in great locations, destinations like Colorado and Santa Fe, and then doing so for over a month last year. So how can you use your mind as a magic wand to create results that you dream about in your personal and professional creative life? I've created several coaching methods I use myself and with my clients, and I'm going to share one of them with you right now that I created because in a way that is easy to remember, simple to use, and empowering so that you can practice shifting, because it does take practice, shifting your thoughts to those that will help you create the life that you crave. I called this process the AAA process. It's a method that will help you to practice being aware of the thoughts that aren't serving you, take an honest look at how they're affecting you, release them, and replace them with thoughts that will serve you and your creative dreams. And this is how you use it. AAA, the first one is acknowledge. First, simply acknowledge the emotion you're experiencing. So I'm going to use, just to teach you this tool, I'm going to use the example of starting a podcast, but I want you to kind of listen to that, take it in, but also be asking yourself, how can I apply this to my creative dream that I'm bringing to this call today? So the first step, acknowledge. You have a feel or a sensation, right? Or you're not creating the result you want, and it makes you feel a certain way. So let's say you've decided you want to start this podcast and you're not making the headway that you want to on it, or not doing it at all. It doesn't feel great. In fact, it feels awful. So rather than doing any of the things that we might do, like look for a distraction, look totally to instruction to have it work, wait to be inspired, or muscle our way through it, I invite you to just stop and acknowledge how you're feeling. Get curious, do a body scan, and name the emotion. So you may feel like, ugh, like your chest is tight, your shoulders are tense, and you realize, I don't know if this ever happened, like you're not breathing, or you're breathing, but you're not taking deep breaths, and you're really feeling that frustration and overwhelm. Acknowledging that frustration, overwhelm, even saying it in this way: the feelings I'm experiencing are frustration and overwhelm. This is a subtle difference between I'm frustrated and I'm overwhelmed, where we kind of not only name it, but then we own it. Like that is who I am and what I am. I am frustration. I am overwhelmed. By first acknowledging it as a feeling. It's a feeling we're experiencing. So again, you would acknowledge simply, the feelings I'm experiencing are frustration and overwhelm. This first step alone helps you to begin to deal with your situation from a more objective point of view, because you know what it's like when we're in it, when we're in frustration and overwhelm. It feels like it is everywhere around us, like it's just invading our being. And so separating yourself and saying, this is just an emotion I'm having. Then the second step is to ask yourself, what thoughts am I having that are fueling this emotion? So to stick with the example of a podcast, you may find the thoughts, I can't figure out this technology, frustration. Who's going to want to listen to this anyway? Which I just want to offer that when the thought that you uncover is couched as a question, it's kind of really usually your mind trying to be kind to you, because what your mind really means is no one's going to want to listen to this. So even being really honest with yourself that somewhere in there, you're having the thought, no one's going to listen to this. That's frustrating. I can't figure out this technology. Frustrating. There's so much to learn. I'll never figure this out. Frustration and overwhelm. Once you can get those thoughts and write them down on paper, you have a very clear picture of why you're feeling the way you're feeling and why you're not creating the results that you want to create. It makes perfect sense. And now you can take that third step to redirect your mind into a direction that serves you. Step number 3 is align. So what you do is you look for a thought that will align your actions to create the result you desire. So for example, sticking with the podcast analogy, I'm learning how to use this technology and it takes time. Compassion, understanding. I don't have to do it all at once. I can take one small step at a time. Supportive, compassion, understanding. Now you're using your mind intentionally to shift out of those feelings of overwhelm and frustration and into feelings of support and compassion and understanding. Imagine how much better it's going to feel every time you sit down to take any action on your podcast if you're coming at it from that intentional space of support and understanding and compassion. And those are just 3 things that I came up with. You can also look for thoughts that'll help you feel confident and empowered and purposeful. So I want to share one of my own most, I was going to say embarrassing. So embarrassing, maybe not embarrassing. It created the biggest shift. So a thought that I uncovered for myself that I did not know, it was so subliminal. That's the other thing about some of our thoughts, that I didn't even know that it was there. But around the time of my divorce and thinking about building my career from a part-time to a full-time career, I uncovered the thought that was, supported by a lot of society and by both my maternal and paternal family lineage, which was men make the real money, women make the side money. And when I uncovered that thought, I was surprised and pissed and like, what? That's not right. Like, I didn't even believe it. It was so easy for me to see it on paper and call BS on it and say, I really don't believe that. But also it served me to see that it was there because it was informing the confidence that I did not have to take the actions that I wanted to take. So sometimes when we uncover a thought, it's so bogus or so like outside the realm of what we want to believe or do believe that we're able to just drop it. But more often than not, we need to intentionally look for other thoughts that are going to help us shift the trajectory of our creative path. So I want to share with you an example of a client of mine. When we first went into lockdown in 2020, one of my clients, who's a personal brand photographer, had some of the same anxiety-provoking thoughts as many other people in the service industry. I'm not going to be able to work. I can't be in the same room with people, so I can't do my job. I'm not going to have a way to make money, right? Those thoughts, if she had just stuck with those thoughts, there's no telling what would have happened. But because we were working together and she had these necessary tools and support to approach the situation from a place of curiosity and creativity, she came up with the idea of an offer that helped to keep her in the public eye and actually making some money. She had thoughts that she was able to find, like, I can figure this out. I'm really good at my job. I have options. And then she came up with this idea of porch portraits. And her thoughts about that were, people are going to love this. This is the perfect time for this. And what this offer ended up doing was not only keeping her business in the public eye, it also helped her create the highest earning year that she had up to that point in a pandemic. It helped her, those thoughts, intentional thoughts, helped her to feel confident and purposeful and to keep showing up for her business in a way that was serving her rather than being paralyzed or throwing in the towel, which is what, she definitely would have done if she was only listening to those other thoughts. And in a related himi-shimi, which is my made up word for a serendipitous occasion, just this week I was coaching her and she said that her most recent personal branding photography client came to her last week, I guess, as a result of a porch portrait. So that is a creative solution that is still paying off for her. Another client of mine had really dreamed about enjoying her retirement with creative projects and painting and other creative pastimes. And she, had bought all the supplies and she had taken all the workshops and gone to retreats. She even had space in her home that she could dedicate to making art and creative projects, and still wasn't allowing herself to enjoy the creative endeavors that she wanted to. And when she hired me as her coach, I was able to help her uncover the thoughts that were holding her back. And some of them were surprising to her too. Like, there are more important things to do. It won't be perfect, so why bother? Artists are selfish people. These were some of these thoughts she didn't even know were in there. And so working together weekly through coaching calls and our magic action dates, which are my weekly group co-creation calls that all my clients have access to, she's been able to move past these thoughts and replace them with thoughts that serve her. I deserve this. Now is my time. It doesn't have to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. I love creating for the pure joy of creating, and that's good enough reason. And on a recent call, she told me, I'm actually really enjoying my retirement now, and I'm feeling so grateful. So that is the AAA reset that I want to share with you. If anybody has any questions about that, feel free to pop them into the chat. Again, it's acknowledge, ask, align. Just take a moment to acknowledge the emotion that you're experiencing rather than trying to do what we normally try to do many times, which is ignore it or shove it down or take any of those other four actions to move past it as quickly as possible. Acknowledge it, ask what thoughts are fueling it, and then align by shifting those thoughts. I want to share one more method with you today that will help you to intentionally use your thoughts. And I want to say again, practice using your thoughts because it does take practice. I think of this a lot as if, if you're learning a new language, you might learn a few words here and there. You might be able to say a color or say one word, and then you get to the point that you can order food at a restaurant or something, and it's something else along the spectrum to be at a place where you're truly bilingual and can think in that way. And it's the same thing with bringing these kind of creative, these new creative processes and methods into your life. It takes practice. So one of the most important tools that I use personally and have started using with my client too is something I call the Magic Action Plan. And it has 7 parts to it. And it's a planning process that literally serves as a map, Magic Action Plan, to keep you on track and moving forward on your creative journey. And today I'm just going to pull out and highlight one single piece of the Magic Action Plan. And it is the one that reminds you you have power when it comes to how you think and feel each day, more than you realize. And I call this the feeling fuel thoughts. So for most of us, how we feel on any given day is greatly affected by outside circumstances, by what a partner or a friend or a coworker or an employee or an employer says or doesn't say to us, by something we see in the news or in our social media feed. You could wake up in the best mood ever, and then somebody sends you an email to say that a meeting's been pushed up by 2 days and they need all the information from you, 2 minutes from now, and your whole mood can shift. So using this piece of the Magic Action Plan, you get to practice intentionally choosing ahead of time how you want to feel. Literally, you say, you write down, today I feel, not even I want to feel, today I feel. And of course, that's going to change on any given day based on what it is you need to be doing. So if you, if you want to work on, let's say the podcast again, a specific creative project that has a lot of different moving parts to it, you may be feeling overwhelmed by all the different options that you have when it comes to moving forward on your podcast. In that case, you might want to intentionally feel calm and grounded, kind of the opposite of overwhelm. So you would write, today I feel calm and grounded. And then comes the feeling fuel thoughts. Then you choose 3 thoughts that are going to help you fuel that feeling of being calm and grounded, and write them down as well. Really taking the time to write these things down connects what's going on in your mind to what's happening in your body. And it's just both with the AAA reset and with this, rather than trying to do it all in your mind, there's something about seeing it and writing it down that really kind of anchors this into your body, into your mind. So choosing those 3 thoughts that are going to help you to feel, going back to this analogy, calm and grounded. So when you feel, first of all, you start your day with that. So you're starting with the intention of how you want to be and what thoughts you want to think, and naming those thoughts. And then throughout the day, when or if you feel yourself slipping into overwhelm or frustration or panic, you can revisit your map and these thoughts to remind yourself that you do have a way, you do have thoughts that are going to help you to feel calm and grounded. So some examples of those feeling fuel thoughts could be, I get to focus on one thing at a time. That feels a lot better to me than thinking I have to do 100 things at the same time, which, even though we know we can't do, our brain is kind of telling us all the time we need to do. So I get to focus on one thing at a time. I know everything I need to complete this project, and what I don't, I'll figure out. Or actually, I'd probably think, what I don't, I'll Google and be able to figure it out. Another thought might be, I choose to enjoy the process. So sometimes this happens often with our creative dreams. We'll show up to something that we have been wanting to do for a really long time and we're excited about it, but because of the language we use and the thoughts we have around it, it feels like a should and a have to do, rather than this wonderful thing that we want to do. So using this tool to purposefully choose how you want to feel ahead of time, and then support that feeling by choosing, again, intentionally thoughts that you want to that support the way you want to feel is incredibly empowering. Even if you just do it once a day or once every other day, it's more than we usually, I mean, in my experience, it's definitely more than I was doing, and something that most of my clients hadn't ever thought of, because this really isn't something that was taught to any of us in school or and at work. So when you practice using these techniques, again, the AAA reset and the feeling fuel thoughts, to create a mindset of your choosing day after day and week after week, you're going to experience that deep satisfaction that comes with showing up consistently, taking inspired action rather than waiting for it to happen to you. And so you're moving forward with your creative dreams. And more importantly, you're enjoying the process every step of the way as much as possible, and you will begin to blow your own mind with what is possible. So if anybody has any questions about how to use those or how it might apply to something that you're working on, feel free to share them in the chat. That is how to, two ways, you know, we didn't have a lot of time together today, but two of the ways that I help people to use your mind as a magic wand. As I promised, I want to share with you now how to take the most important step to ensure that you experience the most joy, the most success, the greatest ease possible on your creative journey. That's what I want for you. That's what I want for myself and my clients, for everybody. And that's to have a way to actually take concepts like this, and like we were talking about, like I was mentioning with the language, to practice applying them. First, you learn them, and then practice applying them consistently, really learning them deeply, and committing to utilizing them fully for your creative projects and passions and pursuits. And truly, the best way that I can offer for you to do that is to invite you to book a Creative Oasis Clarity call with me. You can learn, we'll hop on a call, just the two of us, and this is how you can really learn about working with me as a creativity coach. And you'll have dedicated time and attention to learn and practice a variety of ways to use your mind and your talents and your life experiences to create whatever you want to create and to turn your creative vision into your reality. I think Katie has a link that she can also pop into the chat right now that you can use. And the reason why I'm inviting you to book your call today is because this is what's going to happen. This is what happens to us all the time, you know, is you come here, you learn a new thing, you have some hope and some vision for how you can make this work in your life. And then as soon as we hop off the call, life and everything that's going on right now in our personal life and in the world starts flooding back in and demanding our time and our attention and our energy. And before you know it, everything that we've kind of talked about today and the possibility and the promise of it kind of starts to get overshadowed by, you guessed it, your go-to thoughts, the thoughts and feelings that you've been having the longest, the ones that tell you that what you really need to succeed is more instruction and distraction and inspiration and discipline. And this is, again, simply because they're the thoughts that you've been thinking the longest and the assumptions that you've been making the longest amount of time. And I love this analogy. Imagine that your home is set in a beautiful woods next to a beautiful open field of flowers. And right on the other side of that field is where your best friend lives. And y'all walk and bicycle back and forth to visit each other several times a day. So there's this lovely, well-worn path that's super easy to see and to use. And then your friend decides to build a new house about a mile further up the hill, deeper into the woods near a beautiful waterfall. And once she moves there, you're going to need to forge an entirely new path through the field to get to her new place. And when you first begin heading to this new direction, to her new place, you're going to need to clear a new trail. That might mean that you need to get rid of some big fallen limbs or cut back overgrowth or move large stones. And you may even find yourself absent-mindedly taking the old path from time to time until you visit her enough in her new place that you remember that she lives up the hill now. The same exact thing is true with your thoughts. And intentionally learning to and practicing creating a mindset that will help you create the creative life that you crave. Because the thoughts that you've been thinking the longest, sometimes years, sometimes decades, sometimes an entire lifetime, can be challenging to shift, but definitely not impossible. And it takes time and effort, but it's so worth it. And it's so much easier and frankly more fun when you're working with somebody who can help you. Again, my clients and I are living proof that taking your creative vision from a nice idea and turning it into your new normal is 100% possible. And having a consistent, non-judgmental space and guidance to make that happen will just make it happen more quickly, easily, and successfully. So a few of the ways that I've helped my clients to manage their minds and rewards, I want to give a few examples. Recently, in the past few years, Amber transitioned her from an in-person private yoga practice where everybody met in person, and she wanted to transition it to all online so she could be 100% location independent. And her thoughts when she first came to me was, I think that's impossible. I want it, but I don't see how it's possible. And working together, she has been able to tap into the thoughts of possibility. She has 100% transitioned her business to only online, and she has been able to work remotely from California, Las Vegas, Alaska, and Mexico as of the last count. And those are the places that she's gone, and grow her business. Another way that she used her mindset shifts when we were working together was she had a dread of doing anything like making videos for Instagram, much less Reels. But she really felt like it was her best option to market her business. And we uncovered the thought that was keeping her from making videos, which was, if it's not perfect, people won't think I'm professional. So we got to work on that and shifted it, and had her starting to have fun with making videos and Reels, to the point that now she has so much fun and she makes such cool creative Reels that she has become known for that within the online yoga industry. And she, in addition to teaching yoga, teaches people how to actually make creative Reels for their business. Another client of mine is a coach, Beck. She practiced saying no to clients who were no longer aligned with her current creative offerings. Now, if you've ever been a freelancer or had any kind of business, you'll probably relate to the thought that she was having. Like, if I say no to them, nobody else will come, right? Like, it's like we continue to say yes to the same thing because we know it's certain, even though it's not what's serving us anymore. So what we did was work to shift and have her feel confident about saying no to the clients that wouldn't serve her, and saying yes to making and opening up room and bandwidth for the clients who did serve her and were 100% aligned with her new career and creative vision. Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much. Nick, these are just some other. Nick has enjoyed signing more clients at a higher rate that he didn't think was possible before, and combining this with his own self-care, getting back to the gym. A lot of times, again, our personal and our professional, if we have two things at once, dreams can be more tied than we think. And that's the other thing I love about this work, is I use this phrase a lot with my clients: a rising tide lifts all boats. So when we're working on intentionally creating success and joy and meaning in one area of our life, it can't help but help all the relationships in our life, all the different areas of our life, because we're just coming to everything with this newfound sense of empowerment and what is the best for us, and beginning to trust ourselves more. Kyle, my client Kyle, reopened her business where she helps the people redesign spaces in their home using what they already have. And again, went from like, I've been shut down basically for a couple years, nobody's going to want this anymore, to immediately bringing in clients once she shifted her mindset and started inviting people and letting them know that she was available again. Even people that have audacious dreams, we talk about with my clients, I talk about our creative dreams on a spectrum of certainty, possibility, and audaciousness. So what's really fun is when people come to me to work with me, we talk about their dream on this spectrum and say, okay, well, it's certain that I am going to, let's say, for example, be a creativity coach, because that's what I am. I just earned my certification and that's what I want to do. So that's certain. It's possible that I sign 2 clients in this quarter. And then it's audacious. My audacious goal is to think I'm going to be fully booked by the end of the year. And then what's really fun is when we stick with things and we give it time and we don't get impatient and we show up consistently, is when our audacious goals start to become our possible goals. And then they just become our life. That's what I mean when I'm talking about taking our creative dreams and our creative visions and turning them into our reality. So one of the most powerful things I can help my clients do and help you do too is uncover these thoughts that hold you back and help you to replace them. It's another reason why I think it's challenging to do that on our own, is because it's our own thoughts. It's like we're the fish in the water. We're swimming through it. It's all we know. And as somebody with perspective, I can be out here in a non-judgmental way to help you see what the thoughts are, to zero in, to kind of shine a light on them. And sometimes that's all it takes. And sometimes just seeing that is an aha moment that helps you start to make that change. So again, whether you're watching with me live or if you're watching the replay, you're here with me right now in this moment because you do want to prioritize your creative dream. You do believe somewhere in your heart it's worthy. You do believe it's possible. And some part of you believes that now is the time for you to make it happen. So what's in your control right now, your next small step, is to make that, just to book that Creative Oasis clarity call. Let's get on the phone one-on-one and talk about, you tell me, I'll walk you through really the step-by-step process where you share your creative dream with me. I'm listening for where you're getting stuck and where I can help you move forward. And then I lay out a plan for what that would look like if we work together. So I added, actually, it's a holiday weekend here in the United States. I don't know, I know a lot of you are not in the States, but we have Memorial Day weekend. I went ahead and put a few times on the calendar this weekend, which I don't normally do. I just remember when I found my first coach in 2007, and when I found her, I wanted to start yesterday. I was like, oh my God, this person understands me. She can help me. I don't want to wait. I want to start. So I have a couple of slots on my one-on-one calendar opening in June. And after that, I'll be going to a wait list, but those will be first come, first serve. So I invite you to book your clarity call now and get in while I'm available. Again, I think Katie put that in the chat, and I will also, let me see, there we go. I also want to share with you this idea. It's important to me to broaden the definition of what it means to live a creative life. So I think so many people can, think that creativity is only being able to draw or paint. I actually just had a conversation with somebody who staunchly believed this when we first started talking last weekend at an event. And I was able to help her see that actually, if you got yourself dressed today, if you've ever made a meal, that is all creativity. And I want to give you just some examples of the different types, the spectrum of creativity that I've helped people with over the past even just 3 years. Designing and selling jewelry, teaching improv shops, renovating a farmhouse, gardening, promoting social justice, growing a photography business, leading diversity and inclusion trainings, growing a coaching business, opening an online import shop, starting a podcast, building a sound meditation and healing business, recording music for the fun of it, creating iPad art for the fun of it, creating healthy and satisfying morning and evening routines, launching a boutique ad agency, creating handcrafted cards and memory books, and practicing and teaching meditation and yoga online. Those are just some of the examples, but I always want to make sure, and because I always hear from at least one person who said, I'm so glad that you shared that list because I've wanted to work with you. I've thought maybe that we would be a good fit, but I thought I wasn't creative enough. Or I've even heard people say, I thought I wasn't creative with a capital C and I was a little c. So I just always want to be sure to share that with you. I want to share one more thing about the idea of the clarity call is that, like I said, I'm going to walk you through a process that shines a light on where you are, where you want to be, what's stopping you, and how I can help you get from point A to point B if we're a good fit. And honestly, the transformation begins the minute you decide to prioritize your creative dream, to make that call, to schedule that call. I want to give you an example of one of my most recent clients, Laura. She had a major mindset breakthrough in clarity and confidence around her creative dream as soon as she hired me, before we had even had our first call. Where she told me, she reached out and said, for the first time ever, I feel brave enough to say my dream out loud. I told my husband that I want to make more money with my art than with my teaching, which right now is flipped. So her decision and her commitment to spend time and energy and money on her creative dreams created this powerful internal shift, and before she even began. And now within a few short weeks, she says she feels more confident about introducing herself in the world as an artist, and that she's showing up and taking consistent, inspired actions to make her dreams happen, and is seeing the possibilities for her art career she hadn't even allowed herself to imagine before. So that is another thing that is possible for you and available to you. Again, if you have any questions about the AAA reset, about the feeling fuel thoughts, or about the clarity call, feel free to pop those in the chat. I want to share one more recent client story. And this is my client Ellis. When she was in grad school, she graduated from grad school about a year ago. She said when she was in grad school, she knew what was required. She knew when to write and what to write. She had assignments, she had deadlines, that was all built in. She even had feedback. But once she graduated, that all changed. And for almost an entire year, rather than focus on her poetry, she spent the majority of her time and energy fulfilling other obligations, family obligations, other community obligations, things that she had said yes to and committed to that weren't really aligned with what she wanted to do. But because she had done them the longest, they were the most familiar and the most comfortable to her. So she finally got tired of that and said, I don't know how to do it, but I know I want to prioritize my poetry and my writing. And so we started working together this spring. And within just a few weeks, 4 to 5 weeks of working together, she has let go of some of her other obligations, some teaching and volunteering duties that no longer aligned with her dream. She's intentionally restructured her weeks to allow for more time to focus on writing and creating her poetry collections. She has 2 times a week with me through our one-on-one call, and then the Magic Action Date, which is our group accountability co-creation date that happens once a week. Right now, I'm going to boost to 2 times a week later. She's completing a collection of poems. She's researching and submitting her poems for contests, and has had 5 published in literary journals in the past 2 months. And what she says, her thought that she's available, that came to her, that she's working on now, is she's like, is back to what we talked about at the very beginning. It's permission. She says, giving myself permission to prioritize my poetry has been a game changer for me. And now she's, again, devoting time and energy to what matters most, and able to use her education and her talents and her passions. And as her coach, I can see her confidence growing and her capacity to make and trust her own creative decisions as far as her career strengthening. So one more, question to ask yourself is, if not now, when? I think it's very common that one of the thoughts that keeps us where we are at any given time is, I'll wait for the best time, like there's a best time, or I will, I'll do it, I will get to it. And then I think to be honest with ourselves and say, how long have I been saying this? So just look at your own creative dream and ask yourself, not judgmentally, but honestly, how many months, how many years, how many decades in some instances have I been telling myself, I'm going to get around to it, I'm going to do it eventually? Because time flies so quickly in both directions. It's amazing how much progress you can make in a 6 months time. And it's also amazing how 6 years can go by, and because you haven't decided to, then nothing happens. So one other story that I want to share is my client Gwen. When she came to me, she had already been retired for several years, a couple years, I think, or maybe even 3 years. And she still really wasn't doing what she wanted to do within her retirement. She wasn't loving it and having the experiences she wanted to have. And some thoughts that we uncovered where I'm not a real creative. This isn't serious work. This isn't important enough. I should be working. And since we started working together, she's really been able to transform so much that when I asked her about it, towards the end of the time that we worked together, she said, I've come so far working with you, and I have changed so much that I had to go back and look at my notes to remember why I wanted coaching in the first place, which to me is actually like a really wonderful compliment. She said, I now remember I wasn't able to call myself a writer. I wasn't able to fully claim this amazing life of freedom I've created for myself. And now I love that I'm coming out as a writer. She said, I'm telling people I'm a writer. I'm making art for the fun of it. And I'm fully appreciating and loving my life, which for her is traveling the United States in a beautiful Airstream with her dog and living a truly creative existence wherever she goes. I just want to offer, that's part of my philosophy too, is that I believe our life is our canvas, and that when we choose to view everything in our life through a creative lens, that we're just going to elevate our experiences across the board. So I want to thank you so much for joining me. Again, we can connect if we're not already connected on these social media platforms. I would love to connect there. I want to invite you, you can take a screenshot of that, or again, it'll be on the replay. And I, one more time, want to invite you to book your Creative Oasis Clarity calls. I would love the chance to hear exactly what's going on for you right now, to help you hone in on those thoughts that are holding you back, and help you share what I see as possibilities for a plan to move you forward, so you can actually start creating that life and success that you crave. And I want to share that. I want to end with, I want to thank you for being here. Give yourself thanks for being here, that you gave yourself permission to be here, that you gave yourself permission to watch the replay to this point. I 100% believe you can do whatever is in your heart. And I want to leave you with my philosophy, which is this: when you prioritize your creative dreams and you prioritize learning how to turn them into your reality, you will be a happier, healthier, more fulfilled human, and the world will be a better place. And we all know that we need that. So thank you so much. Have a great day. And I will look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks for your help, Katie. Bye.